right, so with that, we are through scrimmage week. We are just under a week away until the high school football season gets going. So, of course, as per tradition, we have to bring in our guy, Justin Kenny of Outside the Huddle and Optimum Performance Sports. Jay Kenny, thanks for swinging on by, my man. Nice to see you're out of your hibernation.
Glad to be back. It was a long rest and, a night of scrimmages. So we can just start crowning champions already, right? Based on what we saw in 12 play possessions for each team.
Absolutely. I mean, that definitely decides the season.
I saw enough.
Yeah, me too. I mean, you may as well give state championships to some of those teams, right? But in all seriousness, we've got 15 weeks now until state champions are crowned. That being said, we're going to rifle through some of our area conferences, and we're going to start things off tonight, Justin, with the ACAC. Of course, I think it's only fitting that we start the night there. They were our last conference standing. They were with one of the last teams standing in the state with Adams Central. They've run the conference now last year after a couple years where South Adams took over. Justin, do you see AC running the thing again, or do you kind of see a South Adams or someone else jumping up?
Well, if you talk to Adams Central coach Michael Mosier, he will, tap the brakes on this year's Flying Jets team, considering what they lost to graduation. Blake Hirely gone, Alex Curry gone, but that junior group in particular at Adams Central is tremendous. There's a good senior group as well. As long as those younger guys can adjust to the varsity game and the speed reasonably quickly, the talent is there. The experience at that senior level is there. You have to like Adams Central in the ACAC. And I think when you look at the 1A North, really difficult to see a team right now, and we're talking August, that can really match up with the Flying Jets if they play to their potential.
Yeah, and obviously Adams Central brings plenty back for as much as they lose. Ryan Black is back once again at quarterback. Ryan Tester is back. They bring back some big boys up front. Definitely looking like another year for Adams Central, but I do like South Adams as well. It's going to be a fun year down there in the ACAC regardless.
Well, once again, it's Adams County duo, right? We're talking Adams Central and South Adams. So who else can kind of break through in the party of the ACAC in the top two? You look at potentially Heritage taking another step with Coach Casey Kolkman. But right now, once again, you're looking at Adams Central, South Adams as that 1-2.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we're going to move on now to the NECC Small Division, Elijah.
Yes, and obviously Eastside, the big school, they obviously lost Laban Davis, who was a big star. He had just threw over about, 4,000 yards, about 53 touchdowns.
Pretty good.
Pretty good player. And what can we expect from Eastside this year, Justin?
Well, I think the big question, too, when we talk about Eastside, of course, is Laban Davis, who was the best player in the area last year, regardless of class, regardless of conference. And replacing him is going to be impossible for Eastside. That doesn't mean they cannot replicate the production that they got out of Laban Davis. It's just going to be a series of guys instead of relying on one player.
Like that guy, Dex Holmen, right?
Yeah, see, Dex Holmen's back. I mean, on both sides of the football. So you look up front, and there's some really solid players back as well. So when we look at Eastside and where they've come in the last 3 years, right, this was a team that hadn't won a postseason championship of any kind before 2019. What Coach Todd Mason wants to do this year is show that this program is a perennial contender, not just in the NECC, but also in its class, and that it's more than just Laban Davis. And that's what Eastside wants to prove this year.
Yeah, over in the big division now, Justin, obviously a little bit of a different scenario on that side. The big division in the NECC, it wasn't great last year by any stretch of the
imagination. You're being kind.
Yes, by any stretch of the imagination. Fairfield ended up coming away with that one. Do you like Fairfield once again, or do you kind of see maybe an Angola start to bring a resurgence, a Garrett bring a resurgence? Obviously, Angola's coming off of a 2-8 year, and they're not far removed from 2 12-1 seasons.
Well, I keep going back to Angola because, as you mentioned, those back-to-back undefeated regular seasons just 4 or 5 years ago. And since then, it's kind of been shuffling for Angola, and it all came to a head last year going 2-8, like you mentioned. And I feel like when you're a 4A team and you have the depth of program that other teams in your division don't have, I feel like it's an advantage. New surface up in Angola. Fairfield's extremely difficult to prepare for with that triple option attack that Coach Matt Thacker employs. But I just feel like Angola is ready for a bounce-back year. And maybe I'm a year ahead, but I like the Hornets in this division because, as you mentioned, this is really a wide-open division last year. Nobody really wanted to win it until the end when Fairfield got that final win in Week 9. So when we look at what happens in this division, I look at Angola, but that Fairfield attack so difficult to prepare for.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler called back for a third year as starting quarterback as well, but we'll see what happens up there. Elijah, on to the NE8.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we got names like Leo, Norwell, probably the top two teams. Leo won the last two conference titles. Now, for me, Leo is definitely my selection, but Norwell's returning a lot of players. What's your take on that, Justin?
Well, you're not wrong with Leo. I mean, they're back-to-back conference championships, right? You know, defending going into this season. But new regime, of course, with Jared Souter taking an administrative role at Leo. So in steps Coach Jason Dorfler over from Northrop. It's a completely different situation for Coach Dorfler in dealing with Fort Wayne Community Schools during the school day, trying to coach up a program that scuffles when it's trying to make it up into the SAC standings. Now you go where a dedicated youth football program is in place. The youth are running the same thing. So it's a night and day between two programs. But when we look at Leo, the experience that they have, that they lost, could be difficult to replace when you look at Norwell. I think that's the team when we're looking at favorites in the Northeast State, bringing back guys like John Colbert and Luke Graft and Brody Bolin up front, and you look at Leighton Bailey a season ago at quarterback. All their major producers are back from that team that won a sectional championship. They lost to Brebeuf in the regional round, but Brebeuf gets a bump up, so now Norwell doesn't even have to deal with them in the playoffs. So when we're looking at this league, I'm putting Norwell up there. I'm putting East Noble slotting 2. And I'm sorry, I'm putting Leo number 3 right now as we head into week 1 next week.
All right. Can't wait to see how that plays out. And finally, Justin, in the SAC, going to be another fun one. Last year, obviously, we had the three-way tie at the top with Snyder, Lewis, Carroll. And to me, this thing looks wide open once again. But I know you like the Panthers.
I do. When in doubt, go with the Snyder Panthers,
Absolutely.
right?
I
mean, who's going against Kurt Tippmann anytime ever? But, you know, looking at the Snyder Panthers, when you bring back a quarterback in Luke Hoppert that has started more games for Snyder going into his senior season than any other player in the history of the program. And I think they're going to open it up a little bit more this year. Quentin Bowen over at Northrop, new offensive coordinator, slots in. I think you're going to see more wide receiver sets of 3 wide receivers, maybe 4. You know, you lose Tyrese Brown, but Langston Level's back. We saw Dial Capone Veazey, the standout wrestler, tonight getting some carries in the backfield to spell Langston Level. The defense is good enough to slow some teams down in the SAC. In terms of complete teams right now, as we're talking mid-August, I'm going Snyder. But Carroll, right there, gets Jimmy Sullivan, now behind center, QB1. I think with Carroll's defense, athletes at all 3 levels, they're the most dominant defense on paper in the SAC, and now you add Jimmy Sullivan to that offense. If he can get up to speed as a sophomore and start making plays early on, watch out for the Chargers.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun season here. Justin, tell them where the people can find you on social.
At JKennyOPS, and, you know, maybe follow Blitz on Twitter as well.
We appreciate you, as always, swinging by. You know, it's never a football season without Jake Kenny stopping by the studio. All right, we're going to take a quick break, though. Be back with more in the locker room right after this.